What's good, Salvi fam? Welcome to another episode of the Corner Blue. We're back. It's been a bit, and we just taking this time to deal, with life, adulting, and processing the fact that we won't be at Qatar at the end of this year. It's been kind of rough seeing all the group draws play out, seeing other countries look forward to their matchups. I mean, there's been a lot of hype on the Mexico-Argentina match, also the US-UK match that will be played on Black Friday. And it appears all of us will just have to watch those games from home.
The US is playing the UK?
Yep.
I thought they were playing England.
Same thing, right? No?
No.
Oh, see, I learned something today. All right. So more specifically, the top honcho of the UK, the land of the Anglos, England. All right. Well, again, so most of us will be watching the World Cup from home. I know a few of you guys will be able to make it all the way to Qatar. May God bless you in your journeys, and I hope you have fun. But yeah, now we just have to look forward to what's ahead. And it's taken a bit to process things. Obviously, it was something that was in the script of not making it to the World Cup. But now that it's over, you can't get bitter about it. You move on. And fortunately, there's been more competition for the Azul that has occurred. And right now we're in the midst of the U20s starting to take shape and playing the Dallas Cup. And they've been having a great run. I was watching the match against Tigres earlier today in the semifinal, which they won 2-0. And now they're moving on to the final on Sunday against Panama. And then you couple that with the tournament, the beach soccer tournament going on in El Salvador now that it's Semana Santa. And, it's great to see the coverage for it. You get to watch the women's team, and you get to watch the men's, and it's going well for them. So it was a great night. 2 dubs for Salvadoran teams. I was pretty excited, and it was nice seeing that come into fruition. But about this U20s team, I think some questions have risen, and I don't know if you can help me out here, Ul, but the status of some of these players, since they are based either in the US or abroad, how many of them are secured, if for the upcoming U20s qualifiers in June, and how many are on the fence?
In terms of the players making their decisions?
Yeah. Because obviously it's still early in the process. Like a tournament like this serves that purpose of finally getting them to suit up, playing together, creating that chemistry, seeing if it's there or not, and then maybe they sway one way or another.
Well, first of all, I think it's probably a topic that I don't really want to talk much about, just because I know that prior to the Dallas Cup, there's been another group of players training in El Salvador. There's some. I think there was a total of 8 that did travel from El Salvador to the Dallas Cup. So there might be a few guys in El Salvador who probably didn't go due to visa issues. Of course, now, this is the opportunity for guys. And I think some guys are really raising their hand and making the job harder for Jerson to choose the players. For me, in the way I view things, yes, we know that the case of Ordaz, who we called them up, we even called them up for the senior team, and then suddenly the U.S. is interested, and then Mexico is interested, and now he's with us. I want to say my sense is that he's going to play for us. That's just not based on information that I know necessarily. It's just,
Corazonada.
Corazonada, and also I think when you've been doing this long enough, you kind of start seeing a flow, right? And and I think that I don't even know if he trained with the U.S. because there were talks about him being called for the U.S., but then suddenly he appeared with Mexico, and we did see him training with Mexico. And he did that, and now he's with us, and the qualifier is less than 2 months away. A part of me feels like not much is going to change in the next 2 months. But time will tell. Umanya has been really committed from day one. Obviously, it's a different case with him. But, he's la está rompiendo. That's a good thing. I think Garay, there's a very, very high probability that he is going to stay with us. Rios, same way. I really don't have many doubts about those two. And
you said Barahona earlier. We were talking.
Barahona
is based abroad, right?
Barahona is from LAFC, and he was part of the scouting camp here. He was also one of the players that was kind of like in a pre list that I have provided to the coaching staff. And also a good friend of mine who scouts, works for LAFC, had recommended him or suggested him. And there's not, I don't think there's a dispute going on with him with any other national team as of now. Obviously, players could play a U20 tournament, even if it's an official tournament, and still have an opportunity to switch in the future. Honestly, the way I approach this, I don't think that media should be asking players these questions. I don't think it serves any.
It's inevitable, though. I feel like it's inevitable.
Well, yes and no. I mean,
because they're always going to look for an angle of trying to create content.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're trying to create content and you're trying to generate clicks, yes, that's a very good question. But if we just look at the big picture and the reality of the situation, and considering the age of those players, a lot of them are, they're not ready to give an answer, like especially if they have a camera in front of them, and
in the sense that they haven't had media training. Because it's like if you think about, watching The Last Dance and Michael Jordan, how they were like the whole year just kept asking him the same question. Are you coming back? Are you coming back? Are you coming back? That's just kind of what the media does, is because they either want the exclusive or they want to pressure and see what they can get out of sources for that content. So I feel like it's inevitable. Granted, I get your perspective in the sense that it doesn't necessarily help, a federation like El Salvador to pressure these guys, considering all the factors that go into a decision, like, choosing.
Well, yes, but here's the thing: the pressure. So that's my point. The pressure is not coming from the federation. The pressure is not coming from the coaching staff. The question is coming from the media
and fans online too,
and fans. And you're rarely going to get a player. Rarely you're going to get an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old who's mature enough to know how to handle a situation like that. I'll give you an example, and this is present right now. You guys probably know that recently I mentioned about two Panamanian players with Salvadorian roots.
Oh, yeah. I saw that online today.
And all I said in my channels was, we are aware of those players because we are aware of those players. We are in contact with people close to those players because I am in contact with the father of the players, who in fact contacted me to talk to me about them. That's all I said. I didn't say anything else about it. Then some media outlet decided to publish something saying that the players, Jorge, who is the most interesting one right now, is it's already taking steps to make the change to play with El Salvador. What happened with that? What that generated was a big deal on social media, where now Panamanian fans are talking crap about me, and even some Salvadorian fans saying, "Oh, the scout is not what they're saying the scout was lying about blah 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 about the player taking steps to play for El Salvador." I never said that. That's not what I said. But that's what someone else wrote based on I don't know what. But the point is that, and even the player mentions, he posts something about Panamanian 100%. Great. I respect that. I get that every now and then, and I get it, and it's respectable. And as a scout, I'm not going to feel heartbroken because somebody says that. Yeah. I have to understand the situation where the player stands, and it's understandable. However, this is where I go to player maturity. The player I'm talking about right now is 21. Soccer, football can take many paths, many roads. It's unknown what's going to happen. But when you come up like that with a statement like that, based on a fake article, then now you have all the Salvadorian fans against him saying, "Oh, no lo queremos nunca, Panameños, I don't know what." So that doesn't help. So my point is that it doesn't really help for media to ask players like that. Players are not going to be mature. What would a mature player do? This is my opinion, right? If I was a player and somebody approaches me and I'm in a camp with the Salvadorian national team, in the case of Ordaz, I'm in the camp with the Salvadorian national team after being in the Mexican camp and maybe the US camp. Somebody asks me that question, I would say, I'm here right now. That tells you something. And just leave it like that. Just leave it like that. But it takes a certain level of maturity and experience with those type of questions to know what to say. You put the players on the spot, and instead of helping them, you're going to create an unnecessary situation in which the fans are going to go against the players. So
yeah, react to something.
Right. So for me, it's more like just trust the process, let it happen, let it flow, and see how it goes. It's going to be, at the end of the day, it's going to be a natural process. I'll tell you something, and maybe some people are going to get mad. Let's go back to the Panamanian players. We're going to do the process we're going to do no matter what, right? He said whatever he wanted to say. Fine, respectable. What's going to happen if in 2 years or 3 years, he never gets a call from Panama? And there's a chance to play for El Salvador. There's going to be a whole bunch of fans saying, "Oh, he rejected us one time already." And the reality is that nobody from the federation or myself has talked to him and make an official offer approach to play for El Salvador. Nobody has. It was just a whole kind of social media
hoax
generated situation that it doesn't help short term and it doesn't help long term. So my sense, going back to your question, is that guys like Rios, I think they've kind of been pretty convinced and ready to. I mean, when I talked to him, he seemed to be very connected with his Salvadorian roots back when he signed with the Dynamo. I think Garay does have that level of maturity that I'm talking about, and he knows how to handle himself. And even when he went with the US, I spoke to him and he was very upfront about it. He said, I'm going because it doesn't hurt to have the experience, but I'm not ruling out anything. I'm not ruling out El Salvador. And then he was called back to El Salvador. He wanted to go. He was injured. He couldn't go. And now he's there again. So we're in a very, very tricky situation these
I'd
days.
say uncharted territory in the sense that they're so young,
They're so young.
Usually the profile of the players that have had the dual nationality or the dilemmas end up, mid 20s. They feel like, for various reasons, maybe they aged out of their number one pick and then ended up playing for El Salvador. But it's usually been later in careers or mid-career. But these guys are literally U20s. It's so early.
Yeah,
so I bet, the prospects or the doors that they see or windows are numerous.
Yeah, it's early. It's too early in their careers. And FIFA has just opened it up for more of that to happen. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. In some cases, it's going to play in our favor. But now you can play with the senior team. And if you haven't played more than 3 games with the senior team in 3 years, you can make the switch to another country. It used to be that once you play official games, senior level, that was it. I mean, it used to be that if you turned 23 and you didn't make that change, that was it. So now it's even more flexible. I mean, Rubio Rubin might be playing for Guatemala very soon. He played Gold Cups. Maybe not, or maybe yes, but he's played many games for the United States, senior level, official games, I believe, and he might end up playing for Guatemala very soon. I don't know if Aaron Herrera is going to do the same thing, but he also has Guatemalan roots. So now, I mean, even Joe Corona might be able to play for us. There you go. That's it. People are going to stop listening to our show now. Yeah. That was a joke. That was a joke.
No. But that would be the most hilarious full circle, man. Right. That would crack me up if that ever happened. But who knows?
But seriously, I mean, FIFA has they become more flexible with what can be done, and it's the new world we live in, whether we like it or not. I'm happy and I'm grateful that we have a coaching staff who's open to this, to having new players. Here's the thing. I'll share a little bit, probably not the whole story, but going back to the Panamanians, and maybe there's Panamanian fans listening to us. Many Panamanians speak English. Thank you for listening to us. The 2 Panamanian brothers had the option, or actually showed their interest through their father, to play for El Salvador U17s and U20s national team. The coaches at that time were not proactive about it. I'll just leave it at that. Now, one of them has been part of all the processes with the Panamanian team, has been called to the senior team, and honestly looks like a very interesting player. Very, very fast winger, the type of players that we don't have. But where am I going with this? The first thing we do is attack the player when he says something negative, or implying that he's rejecting playing for us. But what we never talk about is that 4 years ago, 5 years ago, we had the opportunity, but we did not have the coaching staff with the vision to open the doors for those players. So it goes both ways. So I think it's just good to know the full story, and to understand the situations. And it's easy to blame the players, and of course they're gonna make mistakes or say the wrong thing. I'm gonna say the wrong thing sometimes on social media. I try not to, but it's gonna happen. But all I'm saying is that in some cases, it's not the players it's not the player's fault that they didn't get to our national team when they were 17. It's because there was a system in place where there were coaches that had closed the doors to those players.
And with the Panamanian players you mentioned, who is their link to the country? Is it the father?
The father was born in El Salvador. That's the link. Their grandfather. So they're basically, when I talked to a Salvadorian coach actually in Panama, or a coach, and also does other work in soccer. The whole family has like a legacy of footballers. The Mendes family. So Mendes' grandfather played in El Salvador for many years. So the Mendes brother's father, was born in El Salvador. So basically through that link, they technically have the ability,
eligible for the nationality
to play for El Salvador. And the father has the Salvadorian nationality because he
was born. Yeah.
He was born there, but he was also proactive about getting his passport.
Mm-hmm.
So he has the passport, and even the oldest brother has the Salvadorian birth certificate as well, because they have taken steps to get it. So anyways, it's gonna be a difficult situation, and again, it's sometimes it's difficult, but I think they're interesting players, and we'll just see. I mean, like I said, I posted a little video today because some people started sending me messages and said, hey, some people are blaming you for this and talking bad things about you, and that's not really what you said, but that's what they're saying. And then I started looking, I was like, oh wow. I even saw a publication from a Salvadorian Facebook page with a pretty good following saying el jugador Jorge Méndez desmiente las palabras del señor Hugo Alvarado, que dice que ya se estaba cambiando de federación. When did I say that? I never said that. But so I put out a video about it, just because for me, I do take my work very seriously, and I'm not gonna come out and make videos for everything that people say about me. But there are certain things like that one from pages that have a good amount of following, and then they're saying things that I never said. I do, and I forgot where I was going, but
it's okay, man.
And yes, where I was going is that me approaching players is something I do every day. It's just part of the process, and and they may or may not end up playing for El Salvador. Who knows? But that's my job as a scout. I'm not going to talk to that player from Panama because he plays in the Panamanian First Division, and that league is lower than our league. So therefore I'm not going to talk to him. I'm going to look at the player. He's playing in Slovakia. He has, experience abroad. He's back in Panama for whatever reason. And to me, he looks like an interesting player. I'm going to talk to him. And just because I talk to him doesn't mean Hugo Perez is going to call him up. My job is to approach the player, especially after hearing the story from their father about what happened previously when they made an attempt to play for El Salvador. And we're trying to do things differently. We're trying to be more professional about it. We're trying to show them our interest, and that's the most normal thing that a scout would do, and nothing else has happened.
And it has to be mutual,
Right? Yeah. And sometimes it's a process, but just like we were talking about media expecting a player to give them an answer on the spot. It's not. It doesn't work that way. It's a process in which you need to have conversations. Sometimes you're gonna find the cases of people who say, "Yeah, I'm ready. I want to do it." There are some players like that right now.
Yeah. No, and it makes sense, but it also makes sense why some could be hesitant. I mean, despite the level of loyalty or how Salvadoran they feel, I wouldn't blame players for being hesitant to play for El Salvador, even now with the change in coaching staff that's going into its second year within a couple months. And it's understandable. I think the media plays its role. What I think that you guys can do well is respecting that process, knowing what it looks like, and by the Bettis is opening the doors in that way to players of including them despite not having that definitive answer. That's how you start sowing seeds that eventually, not all of them are going to stick. But I think we can't continue to be a national team that gets, I wouldn't say sloppy seconds, but having players decide in their late 20s, almost early 30s, when, by that point, it's hard to throw them into, a national team and expect success at a long-term level. And I think that's something that we've seen, starting with the Arturo days. He made that decision pretty late into his 20s, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And he essentially got to play one half or two halves of two qualifying rounds, not even, because of what was going on and the decisions that he made. But yeah, it would be ideal to find that piece, find those players at a younger age and incorporate them into a long-term process. And hopefully the experiment works out for Jerson, especially with this U20 and all the activity coming up. The type of tournaments that they get into are going to be pivotal. Something like the Dallas Cup is always welcome. So props to whoever put that together. The final is going to be on Sunday against Tantan Panama. I don't know. I have this sense that there's this rivalry brewing with Panama, especially since the Lomazo and then this last the octagonal. There seemed to be kind of media from Panama kind of stirring the pot, and then people responding from the Salvi side. I hope, the last thing we need is bad blood. Rivalries, yes, they're great, but bad blood, we don't need that. And I think let's move on. So yeah, the Playera has been playing. I don't know if you've been able to catch any of their games. They always put on a show. I wrote that in a tweet early on. If I ever want to see goals be entertained by Salvadoran sports, it's La Playera, man. It's great to see them competing against Germany and Uruguay and getting those dubs so far. They're set to play Mexico next, and we'll see where it goes from there. But it's great to see the goals, the acrobatics, the strategy, how sometimes it reminds me of basketball with the clock, stopping, and the strategy of using seconds on the clock to try and come up with certain plays. I love that. And as always, props to them for their drive and always bringing us smiles when they compete. Also, the women's side, unfortunately, recently was eliminated from qualifying, but it was something that was very special to see the women's team's games being broadcast, at least here in the U.S., this is the first time that I was able to watch, the U20s and also the senior squad. And again, you're seeing that approach too of incorporating foreign-born players into the mix and seeing them, combine with the locals. And you see a discrepancy in the sense that the women's game in El Salvador is, in its infancy. It's in its gestation. It's something that's been neglected. There's even been reports of, sexual harassment by a certain referee at the referee school. So, I feel like it's about the women's game is light years behind, but despite that, it was very refreshing to see Acuna getting things done with the U20s and the senior squad players that play in both. So you're seeing talent getting developed. And yeah, it was also exciting to see the foreign based players come into the mix, and you see that formation that they've had outside. And it's just nice when you see the foreign born players, for the men's and women's team. It's almost like that homecoming. I don't know, but I always get, I don't know how you say, but there's always like a soft spot in my heart when you see those players coming home in that sense, playing at El Cusco, wearing the colors and connecting with their people in a positive way. So that's been really, really cool to see. Unfortunately, they didn't make it to the next round, and hopefully there's more competition for them coming up soon. I'm not aware of any, and hopefully the women's game continues to grow in El Salvador because, it needs to. It should be a given. With the senior squad, we're eliminated, but we do have the Nations League coming up. The draw did occur recently. Well, do you know the group by heart, or should I use good old Google?
Good old Google.
Okay, let's see.
I have to apologize to everyone. It's been a busy couple of weeks with work for me, so I haven't. I've been able to keep up with things, scores, and watching highlights and recordings of games, but it's been unfortunate because there's been so much with the
there's been plenty
team.
to move on from the octagonal and the World Cup not happening, fortunately. All right, so just to update you guys, El Salvador is in the same group as Grenada, the US, and I think that's it, right? Let me see. I think that's it.
Oh, we're talking about the Nations League?
Yeah.
Oh, I know the Nations League. We have Granada.
US.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's just 3 teams.
And the top 2 move on, if I'm not mistaken, to the next round, right?
Let me think this again. So we have the United States, Granada. I thought it was another team.
So far, that's all I'm getting.
No, that's it.
Yeah.
So the top 2 the winners of the groups go to the finals.
And then the second,
and then the first 2 go to the Gold Cup.
Okay.
The third spot in League A plays another round to qualify to the Gold Cup. So it's like they have many chances. If you're playing League A, you have many chances to go to the Gold Cup.
It sounds like another good old-fashioned CONCACAF magic happening there. But regardless of it, I think matches of this level versus the US home and away are very attractive and something that's going to help develop the team and push the team. We got some friendly matches coming up. Most recently, or the closest on the horizon, is against Guatemala. I know people are kind of bummed about playing Guate, but I'd like to remind you, it is a non-FIFA window. So
I'm looking forward to that game.
Hell yeah.
I'm going to be there. If you guys want to meet me in person,
get some
this
autographs.
will be the perfect opportunity. PayPal Park. Send me some Bitcoin. I'm just joking. I plan to be there. So if any fans are there, it would be nice to meet.
I'm planning on being there. It's not confirmed yet, but I'm planning on being there. It's the first time La Selecta comes back to the Bay,
right?
In a long time. What's up?
Pending wife approval for
sure. We'll call it that.
I guess I'm speaking for myself.
Hey, it happens, man. So yeah, so hopefully I'll be able to do some coverage for the match, either just the practices and then I'll be at the game, most likely as a fan, just because it's the first time that Select has been back in a while. Um, and I know people are bummed about the whole Wata thing. I mentioned that, but I think the main thing that's important is when you consider a national team like Mexico, they're like a national team for two countries, which is, I don't know what other national team can claim that, where they get double dipped into sponsors, TV rights, just everything times two. Obviously, El Salvador is a lot smaller country, smaller team, but what about if you try to tap into that type of mentality of taking the show on the road? So it's not just in LA or DMV or Houston, that you start branching out, because soccer has grown in the US and also just the diaspora is everywhere. And I think by tapping into Guate, there's a big Chapin community in the Bay, and a more recent diaspora. So I think, that's a smart marketing move. But I think, yes, take it on the road, experiment, take it to new venues and places. And wherever you take La Selecta, hopefully people will show up, especially in places that have been starved of any type of games where there used to be. With,
Australia.
you heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. Think about it. Wouldn't that be exciting? Even if they played like, like what, Sydney FC or something, like La Selecta in Australia, would you make the trip? Would
I'll
you
make the trip.
would you fly out on, what's it called, Cantas or?
In fact, we'll have a GoFundMe account for us to go cover the select the play in Australia.
Yes, we
If
just
it
need
happens, I actually
permission
think it'll be
first.
really cool. I think it'll be really cool because obviously it's far away. It's probably very expensive to have a national team play there, but I think it'll be cool because I get messages from the Australian Salvadorian community, and and I just think it's probably similar to the US, obviously not the same amount of Salvadorian people, but there is a significant amount, and they don't get to see the national team play there. So I think
Or
it will be really cool.
international soccer in general, other
Yeah,
than like the repechajes and shit.
yeah. I think it'll be really cool. New Zealand, Australia.
You heard
Yeah,
it
I
here,
like to
ladies
see
and
us like
gentlemen.
Sweden. Maybe will have a decent population, but I've heard some interesting things about Australia. I even heard that like even other nationalities might go support El Salvador just because there's a lot of Chileans mixed
Mhm.
with Salvadorians and like South Americans and Salvadorians, and I just think it'll be really really interesting.
Yeah, I think that has to be the mentality, is take this show on the road. Um, don't just play in like the comfortable, safe markets per usual. But I think, yes, whoever thought of the idea of the Bay Area is playing it smart. It's potentially one of the host cities for the 2026. There's a large Salvadoran community here, large Chapin community, and we don't get games like this that often. So I think it's a smart move. PayPal isn't a huge venue either. So it's not like you're trying to sell out Levi Stadium. So I think PayPal, being soccer specific, a nice small stadium where there's not a bad view in the house. Hopefully a lot of people get in the stands and feel that little piece of home, because I think that's part of it. You need to find your angle from a marketing standpoint. And what more do you want than that? I know that the rival may not necessarily agree with something like that, but it's called a sparring. You're getting the guys together. It serves a purpose. Other teams do this. It's no big deal. I know the following friendly is against Panama, which I feel is a tier higher, fueling into kind of the rivalry as well. They had that disappointing run at the end where things didn't pan out for them. Do you hear the pan out for Panama joke? Anyway, uh, so then after that we have the Nations League starting and on June 4th against Granada, and let's see, June 7th against Granada, June 14th against the US, and then we fast forward 6 months later, even more, sorry, until March of next year, where we play the US. I think we're going to close out with that, ladies and gentlemen. I think the main point is here, we've barely talked about the octagonal, not making it to the World Cup, the match against Mexico where there was a little experimenting going on and things didn't necessarily pan out the way that we wanted to. But the point is, there's more stuff on the horizon. I think it's very interesting that we're seeing these subplots or stories coming to fruition with this U20s, and we'll see what happens in June and where it goes from there. Because these kids, if you can get pieces from this U20, they're going to be, 21, 22 for the next qualifying round. And the more the merrier. Hugo, do you want to add anything before we close out?
No, just looking forward to what's next. U20, I think the U20 winning, if they win the Dallas Cup, would be great. I think it'll be amazing to see a youth team winning something like that. I mean, the Dallas Cup, it's a pretty important tournament. We haven't seen a U20 compete in something like that in a while. Yes, there are other teams, like Panama. It seems like Panama is all over competing against France, I think, and other like big European teams. That's great. That's amazing. Good for them. But for us, Dallas Cup is good. We usually don't play much, and what's important about this, besides the teams participating being good level for that age group, it also gives the players an opportunity to play a competitive tournament to win it. It's not just a friendly match, it's actually they're playing for something, and that just adds another level of pressure that I think is good for this group, a brand new group, to get used to playing those games, get used to playing together, and by the time, hopefully a lot of the players that are currently playing the Dallas Cup stay in the final roster, then they're going to have a lot of minutes playing together, and it's going to be easier. I think we're going to have more probabilities, more chances of winning games in the qualifier.
Yeah, for the qualifying, let me pull that up. We're in the same group as Panama and Guatemala and Aruba. And that's going to start in June 18th. So, yes, I mean, like you said, it's about getting to know your rivals, sizing them up, getting experience against them. And, we're going to have to deal with Guatemala, Panama along the way in all these tournaments. And so I don't think it hurts to play them on a non-FIFA window. I almost forgot to mention the friendly match against Argentina was confirmed. And that's going to be in September, right?
September, yes, in Houston.
Which is huge. So that's what we want to leave you guys with, is looking forward to more stuff on the horizon rather than just focusing on the negative. And, the reality is it was kind of in the script with just how things played off, the process being truncated midway through the qualifying rounds, just how everything played out, the pandemic, De Los Cobos leaving, Hugo Perez taking over, a couple months before the octagonal started. Just everything, just no pintaba completamente bien. I think it was within the script, and we saw it with the games where a lot of them seemed kind of anticlimactic, whether it was due to injuries or cards or just the usual drama that occurs. And I feel like that was a inconvenience. Is the more time that the players had either at the albergue concentrados or the trips and more possibilities of things falling apart, and it finally did closer to the end, unfortunately. But again, let's stick with the positive. More on the horizon. Thanks for listening to us. Remember to share, like, subscribe, and tell your tia so she can identify more with the Salvadoran national team, especially the women's team. Get her pumped to watch those games. And we'll catch you guys next time. All right? So take it easy.